And so then my mother grew up and she had, um, she came from a big family of 8 children. She was the oldest of 8. And then she met my dad when he was about, my mother must have been about 20, I guess, and my dad was about 25, something like that. And they went to dances and grew up like other people did around Portland. And my mother worked, I guess, before she met my dad, at the telephone company. And then my dad was around the wood business all the time, all of his life, lumber, etc., log booming, and so on. And eventually became a longshoreman on the waterfront, and checking cargo, and then a superintendent of cargo, and so on and so forth. And spent 60-some years on the waterfront in Portland, 65 years. But so I am from that family of, you might say, the McLaughlins and the Durkins, and on my mother's side. And then from my father's side, my father was the one of 8 children. I think he was about number 3 in the family, or 4. And he was, his mother's name was Amelia Jane Murphy, and they were from Boston. Now, her parents came from Ireland, and they came, from what I've looked it up, they came somewhat from the area of Donegal, one of the western counties of Ireland. And as near as I can find out, my grandmother, Harold, Amelia Jane Murphy, her people actually came over about the same time, maybe a little earlier than my grandfather Durkin on the other side. And they were, what they did, what my grandmother, my grandfather Harold's people did, I don't know exactly, but I think one of the older members of the family could probably tell you that. I don't really know about that. But there were names in that family. There was names like Murphy on that side of the family, and Tucker, and I believe there was a name like Doherty on that side of the family. There was a Doherty on the side of my mother's family, so you know, the Doherty name. Yeah. And so you might say we're Irish. Pretty well convinced of that, you know.
Didn't somebody get hung for stealing a horse over there or something?
Well, that's what they claim.
Who was
Maybe
that
they
supposed to be?
did, but I don't really know. And if they stole a horse from English, I'd be proud of that. But and they probably did, but I don't know. My mother always claimed that she had a great relative, some relative way back, whose head was cut off and carried around Dublin. His head was carried around on a sword, on a pike in Ireland, displayed. You know, one of her bloody relations. Which could be true. I don't know. So I came from that marriage of the Harolds and the Durkins, you might say. And I'm number 4 in the family, of a family of 8. And my sister Mary Jane is the oldest, and my sister Ann is next, and then my brother Bill is next, and then comes me. I'm Jack. And then behind me came Francie, my sister, and then there came my brother Bob, and we had a fox terrier dog, and we ran out of names in the family, so we named the dog had died, the fox terrier. We had him for 18 or 20 years, 18 years I guess. And so when my brother Bob was born, we named him after the dog. That's what we always told him, you know. Really, his name was Robert Emmett Harold. You know. That's how he got his name. But then I had my sister Eleanor, and then I had my little brother Chucky. That's your papa. And your little brother Chucky would be about 3 years older than my oldest son. So the family, as I remember it, back in the days when the Harolds and the Durkins had their family, and I ended up number 4, I was always kind of a misfit. I guess I cried till I was about 9 or 10 years old. And I must have had some real thin skin, I guess. And I spent a lot of time, from the time I was young till the time I was older, 13 or 14, 15, with a lot of time during the winter months with my grandfather Durkin and my grandmother Durkin. And so I learned a lot of things and heard a lot of funny things from them as I went along and through my life. But I enjoyed their Irish humor. And one thing I know that I remember real well, when I was about to be married in 1939, my grandfather Durkin, who had a brogue, he said, "You're like the Irishman in the wheelbarrow, your troubles are all ahead of you," which I thought was wonderful. You know, I never forgot that. And they were, you know, they were ahead of you, you know. And he was a marvelous, he's a funny guy, really funny fellow, had a lot of sense of humor, you know, great sense of humor. Like most Irish should have, you know.